Hello and welcome to the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. It is October 4th, 2024. This is episode 284. That's a lot of fours in there. Stand-up comedian, actor, improviser, and dreamer. Paul Green, as I share my journey, thoughts, insights, and pretty much just ramble on about me as I pursue my dreams as a performer and share whatever insights I have as a part of that with anybody who cares to give a listen. So it has been a bit of a relaxing week compared to the last month. The last month was crazy. September was just ridiculous. I mean, I was in Los Angeles for a week, and then I was in Iowa for a weekend, and then 2 trips to Vegas and a trip to Yuma. So a lot of travel, a lot of shows in diverse places. And this last week has just been here in good old Arizona and been a good chance to regroup. I have been thinking a lot about my stand-up comedy and how I got in the top 6 out of 101 comics to be entered into the World Series of Comedy Festival, and that I made it down to the top 6 comics, but did not make it to the top 3. And so I've been thinking about that a lot this week and just thinking about what can I do to take my comedy to that next level, to where I am undeniable. I think Steve Martin was quoted as saying, "Become so good that they can't ignore you." And I will tell you what, I have spent a significant amount of time in my comedy career being ignored. Yeah. And that's not an indictment on anybody else but me. And, I think that it's really easy, and I see this all the time in comedy as well as in acting and in many different endeavors, that it's easy to adapt a victim entitlement, woe is to me mindset when things don't go well. As an actor, if you don't book the role, or as a stand-up comedian, if you don't get a big break, or if you don't end up on a TV show, or if you don't get booked at a certain club, or whatever it is, it's really easy to, at least it has been easy for me, and I have definitely encountered this type of mindset and attitude in countless performers that I've interacted with over the years, which is a tendency to blame everybody else. Oh, it's the industry. Oh, it's, my agent isn't working hard enough for me. Oh, all of the cast and directors are racist or sexist or ageist, or, what's the word for you have to be a certain level of attraction? What's it called if you're biased against ugly people? Is there a word for that? Ugliest? They are an ugliest. That makes it sound like they are the most ugly. But anyway, so I've seen that a lot. And by the way, that's not to say that there does not exist bias in the performing arts. I'm not suggesting that at all. There is plenty of sexism, racism, ageism, and whatnot. However, take anybody who's ever not accomplished what they thought they should have, or didn't get booked, or didn't get to a certain level of success, and then uses one of those excuses to say, oh, well, this is why I'm not more successful, is because of these external factors, and they use that as their excuse. I guarantee you can find somebody who also has that same thing who did make it. There's been plenty of comedians of all races who have found success in comedy or in acting or in performing. There are plenty of actors and performers and singers who have found success even though maybe they, they could make those same excuses. I don't feel like I articulated that very clear, but I think you get my point. So I've always looked at it, and by the way, I've played that game too. I've played it even more pathetically on the other end of going, oh, well, because I'm a straight white guy and everybody in the industry wants diversity now, that is why I haven't gotten more opportunities. Or, I'll see, people who are minorities or whatever get opportunities because, I've literally seen that on casting calls. It's like, we are looking for diversity. Or I've seen that, when bookers will put out notices that they're looking for comics. It's like, we are looking for diversity. Diversity means anybody else but a straight white dude. And so even I have thought that sometimes. I'm just going, oh, well, if I was a minority, or if I was more interesting, or, if I had a more compelling backstory or whatever, well, then I would be more successful. Which, even hearing myself say that is just so ridiculous that I would even allow myself to think that. But that just goes to show how prevalent and easy it is to claim some sort of victim status. And again, that's not to say that there is not victimization that exists. And so I want to make that very clear. But the flip side of that is, if you are so effing good that you are undeniable, then you will not be denied. Or in Steve Martin's words, become so good that they can't ignore you. And that, to me, is where I'm trying to put my focus. And I am just looking at it as, hey, nobody owes me anything. I'm not entitled to anything. The only thing that I can focus on is, how good can I get? How funny can I get? How undeniable can I get? How precise and meticulous and emotionally compelling can I become with my comedy that whenever I step on a stage, everybody in that audience goes, oh, yeah, that guy. And I can honestly say, I have stepped on a stage so many times and have not been that guy. And I get off the stage and even I know, okay, yeah, that was all right. Yeah, that was decently funny. And everybody in that audience forgot I existed 5 minutes later after the next comic got on stage. So that's where my mind has been. And by the way, this is actually not discouraging. This may sound this may sound like I'm kind of being down or hard on myself. It's actually not that case at all. It's actually very empowering to just go, hey, you want to know what? I have the power to control much of my own destiny. Now, sure, there are always elements out of my control, but I have a tremendous amount of control over how much I write, how much I refine, how much I practice, how much I refuse to accept anything less than stellar, anything less than becoming so great that I can't be ignored. And that to me is really exciting, because I just think about that. I'm like, how cool will that be for me to step on a stage and for every judge and audience members and members of the audience at the World Series of Comedy to hear me and go, oh, yeah, that's the guy. Oh, that's undeniable. Oh, yeah, that we can't ignore this guy. And I got a little taste of that because, again, I made it to the final 6. I got first place in one of the rounds. I got third place in another round. And so there were enough people to go like, oh, yeah, this guy deserves to move on over everybody else who didn't get to move on. And I don't say that braggadociously like, yeah, I beat out all these other comics. I look at that of going, no, I beat out myself because I did this competition 3 years in a row from 2019, 2020, and 2021, and I never advanced. And I put so much work and effort into improving my stand-up comedy that for me to go from not advancing to advancing all the way to the semifinal round, all the way down to the final 6, is a huge victory over myself. So now I just look at it as, how can I be even more victorious over myself? For that is truly my only competition. So that's been my focus, and I've started to do some more writing this week. I really got off of my writing habits just because I was performing and traveling so much, and most of my creative effort and energy was actually going towards just really honing in the material I was going to do over the competition. So I've started coming up with some new ideas. I'm going to start working on some new material. Tonight, I had a fun bar show, which I did about 10 minutes. Actually had a good time. It was a kind of an interesting scenario. It was at this bar that actually has 2 rooms divided by some glass doors. So you can walk in and then you can go to the left, or you can open these doors and go to kind of this other part of the bar on the right. Well, on the left side is a stage for rock bands. And believe it or not, those glass doors were not soundproof. So right about the time I was ready to go on stage, this rock band kicks in, and you can hear them pretty well. There's a little bit of muffling of the sound with those glass doors, but not a lot. And so I was pretty much screaming my comedy on top of a rock band. But overall, I had fun. So that's really the update. So I am going to call it a little short for tonight. I have started, however, reading a new self-help book called The Magic Mindset. So I'm going to start commentating on the magic mindset. I just finished commentating and reading the book called The Magic of Thinking Big. So I'm now reading 2 self-help books that have to do with magic and mindset, and how having a good mindset creates magic, which obviously that's what the universe wants me to be focusing on, is my mindset. And I have recognized a lot of opportunity for me to improve upon my mindset. And I'm a huge believer of that. I really am. And I think it's so easy to get to lose sight of that, to just lose sight of how important having positive, realistically positive. This is actually what the magic mindset is talking about, how, positivity doesn't necessarily mean everything is butterflies and roses all the time, but there is definitely always an opportunity to look at whatever is going on in life and find a mindset and find a framework and find a context that is going to lead to more positivity, more empowerment, and potentially better outcomes than looking at everything through fear-based, small-minded, negative, victim-based, entitlement-based mindsets. And this is a good refresher for me. I think it's just one of those battles that I think every human being goes through. I know that I definitely have to always try to analyze how we are thinking and processing and viewing, what lens are we viewing the experiences and events that are happening in our lives. And those lenses can always be swapped out. They can always be changed. You can always swap the filter. So I will be starting to dive into that. I'm not going to do it tonight because I have got to get running, but just wanted to check in for today, October 4th, 2024, episode 284 of the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. I hope all your dreams are coming true. You're out there hustling, grinding, and finding fulfilling and exciting experiences and growth along the way. I love you all so much, and I will check in with you tomorrow.